The very first guy that we have today was also in that room the day that I met the iPhone, and that is, yes, the slide is up. That is the lovely Marc Edwards from Bjango. So welcome Marc to the stage.
Handheld or just in here? That's all right. I think we don't have a handheld. I thought we might. I thought I'd start with a bit of a brief history of Bjango. So Bjango started in 2005 when we actually met on the Mac Talk forum, which is, I'm sure, a familiar story for a lot of people here. Together, it was around about the time where 10.4 Tiger came out, so dashboard widgets were the flavour of the day, unlike today where it's all iPhone apps. And together we just built a whole lot of free dashboard widgets, about 30 or so in total, and gave them away for free just for a bit of fun and to get a bit of exposure. And no one was really selling widgets anyway because you couldn't, because there was no widget app store. So the people that tried to sell them actually failed and had to do other things. So that's interesting. We got to the point where we'd delivered about 30 million widgets and free Mac apps. So that was a good milestone and good in terms of building exposure for us. But at that point, it was still just a bit of fun. And then it came to 2007 when the iPhone was released. And obviously, that's quite a big event for all of us here. There we go. Supposed to be on that one. A big event for all of us, and certainly for the guys at Bjango, for Brad and I. That was the point where we saw this new device, and the apps on this device looked very similar to widgets. So that was great. That was also at the point where we're all told we were going to be building web apps instead of actual Cocoa apps. So that was a bit disappointing, but then we found out later on that it was Cocoa, so it was everything we were familiar with. That was a good sign. So we had all the right tools. Early 2009, that was the point where we, I can't remember how Pete mentioned it, but we quit our day jobs, so we told our bosses to whatever. That was a good day, so we started doing everything full time. That was after we'd released a couple of apps. It's good you've got to be careful with the risks there, you can't just jump into it. We now have a great little business with 4 employees, including myself, and a few contractors. And along the way, we've made a lot of decisions. Some of them haven't been good, some of them have been. Definitely had our fair share of mistakes. But I thought I'd share some of our decisions and some of the important business landmarks and milestones that have come along with that, in the hope that it will help you guys make whatever decisions you need to make for your business, career, whatever app. So the first point is decisions are something that it has to be made confidently. Not making decisions is a very, very bad thing. Focus is incredibly important, and restricting the scope of what you do is incredibly important too, for everything really. I doubt Twitter would be as successful if they hadn't restricted the message length to 140 characters. So saying no is incredibly important. It's probably more important than saying yes. So for us, we make decisions. Google's a great example, and Google's homepage is a great example of making decisions and saying no. This is it's obviously a very clean design. It's very obvious what the focus is. It's for searching. That's what it's for. That's their thing. There's no misconceptions there. That's what it is. On the other hand, this is what happens when you don't say no. And it's what happens when you don't make decisions. It's what happens when you're in a meeting and someone says, hey, how about we do A, how about we do B? And then someone else says, let's just do both. Don't do that. Certainly, you have to make sure that you're focused, have to make sure that you say no. It's also really important to make sure that you make decisions on behalf of the user and try and make good decisions, because you don't want them to be making all the decisions you're foregone. It's just not a good experience in any way, shape or form, and it will definitely affect your app or business or career negatively by deferring your decisions to someone else. It's just not a good strategy. Okay, so another decision you have to make is what is your plan? What is your business? What is your career? Are you going for longevity? Are you trying to build something up that is your own, or are you trying to build something just to flog it off later? Both are fine. Obviously, we have a stance on this. We're trying to actually build a business where we have products that are worth something, that we can continue to maintain for a long time. We're not trying to be bought by someone, but if you are, then that's something that is obviously core to your motivation and belief, and that will affect everything you do, all the decisions. So you may be, for example, trying to get lots of users, because lots of users means you're actually worth something to someone who might be trying to acquire you, like whatever, Microsoft buying Skype for however many billions of dollars it was. And that affects your user experience. It affects everything in your business. So that's a decision you have to make, and you really have to hang your hat on whichever one you choose. The best explanation and best article I've ever read on this topic is by Will Shipley. So I highly recommend you read this at a later date, not right now, because I've got a few more things to say. So copy down the URL or Google it later, or watch it on YouTube and you can grab it. Another decision we had to make was, do we work for hire, or do we build our own products? We were very fortunate because we started and we gave a whole lot of stuff away for free. We'd kind of done the groundwork, and we had a bit of a brand, something that was worth something. So when the iPhone was launched and we released some apps, we were able to move straight into our own products. That was great. We've sort of tried work for hire. Doesn't work for us. Definitely works for other people. There's certainly a lot of contract work around. So if you are planning on going for work for hire, then I'm sure you can build a great business around that. But it's up to you, and you have to make the decision quite early. I think it's quite difficult to do both, because they have opposing requirements. It's also worth noting that a lot of developers start with work for hire, and they can work into products and then make the switch. A lot of what we do is custom in terms of the user interface and the way we build apps, the way we approach things. And that works for us, and that's kind of our shtick. Certainly you can get away with using off-the-shelf for user interface elements and for the experience. So generally speaking, what we do is custom. However, we also make sure we don't spend any time on things that aren't user-facing. So we try not to build our own whatever support services or whatever. So it's very much off the shelf as well. And we just use everything available. Things we have to pay for, like Zendesk, which is a great support system, or Dropbox for sharing files, or Google Docs just for keeping track of bugs. We have actually, long story, oh boy, we did actually write some kind of bug tracking app at one point, and it was just a waste of time. It's much better to just use something else that's already out there, because users won't notice anyway. So, and there's a lot of great stuff. You're much better off just either getting it for free or paying for it or whatever. In terms of custom UI, this isn't one of our apps. This is actually DM1 by Finger Lab. Glad I wrote that down. The best thing about custom UI is it gives you a very emotional connection to the experience. So something like this looks beautiful. It's very apparent straight away to the user why they should be buying this, because they can see straight away that there's been care put into the application. So even if you're a programmer, it's definitely worth investing in, and I'm saying this as a designer, but it's definitely worth investing in some kind of special UI, even if it's not this custom, just to make sure that there is that emotional connection with your application. It's also worth noting that when you do this, you'll probably be spending 50% or more of your time developing UI-related things. It's that full-on, but the results are good. And hopefully, if you get a really good emotional connection, you'll end up with a situation like this. So, which is obviously what you want. That is the end result you want. You want people to see your app and then buy it or download it or whatever. Or you want your clients to like your work so much that they do the same thing. Another big decision is how you build, how you mock up, how you prepare your apps and the path they take from start to finish. For us, we take the pixel perfect route, and I believe that's what Apple does. I believe that's what a lot of other developers that have a high taste for design do as well. So every single thing we do, we try to mock it up in a fashion that is pixel perfect, so that you can then build the code directly from the mock-up. You can compare the, I'll just switch this. Here's one of our apps. You can build and you can compare your final product. So the app, when it's running in the simulator on the device, you can compare it to your Photoshop or Fireworks or whatever mock-up, and you can know that everything's exactly where it should be. And again, there's just less messing around when you get to the code stage, which is vital, because that's where things get a lot slower and it's more difficult to make changes and decisions. Another big decision is, and this is probably something that you will inherit because of who you are already, it's whether you're a developer or a project manager. And again, there's different strategies involved there, and you'll probably take on different projects based on that. If obviously we're developers, we're not project managers, which means for some things we're probably not good at looking at the big picture, but for the small details, we've got near endless amounts of time because it's our own time, so we don't have to worry about paying someone per hour for the actual development, generally speaking. So it's good and bad. It's good in terms of being agile and maintenance, but if you were a project manager trying to build an application to sell and that was going to be a product, then I'd probably recommend doing something that wouldn't require massive amounts of maintenance down the track. Another thing that strikes me as a common question is people always say, I've got an idea for an app, I've got an idea for this, I've got an idea for that. I don't know how much value I place in ideas at all. I think ideas are important, obviously, but I think when it comes down to it, it's the execution that counts. It's usually the details, and that's what really makes something great or not. And the App Store, the way it is, chances are you'll be competing against 10, 15, whatever, similar apps. So the idea is going to be taken unless you've got something quite exceptional, and if you do, someone will probably steal it anyway. So chances are it's the execution that's going to count. So that's really where I think you should be putting a lot of emphasis. And finally, making great software, I think everyone can do it. It's all about caring about what you do, getting all the fine details right, and just really wanting to make something good. I've got no doubt that every single person here could actually build something great if that's what they want to do. So, good luck. And I believe there's going to be questions later on, about 4 p.m. So there's no questions now, but thank you very much. Cool. Thanks a lot.
I love Marc.